Hi, welcome to Crow Canyon. My name is Mark Berry and I'm the Vice President of Programs here. I'm starting my 26th or 27th year working at Crow Canyon and 30th year being an archaeologist in the Mesa Verde region. We're at the Crow Canyon campus, which is 177 acres, and we're up at what we call the Pueblo Learning Center. This is one of our outdoor classrooms, and it's a replica of an AD 1200s Pueblo Indian home. Pueblo people lived in this region from about AD 600 to about AD 1300. And between about 600 and about 1100, they built primarily with posts and mud. And they gradually, between 1050 and 1150, made the transition to masonry architecture. The site would have dated to the AD 1200s, which is the final century that Pueblo people lived in this region. Often you'll hear the Chamber of Commerce or other people talk about the mystery of the disappearance of the Pueblo people or the Anasazi from the Mesa Verde region. And it's true, it is a mystery why they all left. But it's not a mystery where they went and who their descendants are. The ancestral Pueblo people who lived here in the Mesa Verde region are the ancestors of the modern Pueblo people. The roofs were made of beams that are called vigas. We use the Spanish word for those. And then split juniper, that's covered by juniper bark, and then the uppermost layer would be a layer of earth. This type of architecture sustained Pueblo people for centuries, and Pueblo people still build homes and structures like these in their villages today. When those houses burn down, these timbers char. They don't burn all the way to ash, but they char, and then they get covered in dirt. And because of that, they don't decay further. In the 1920s, there was a scientist who was interested in the relationship between sunspots and climate change, and he started studying that by looking at the various ring width in trees. So he built a record of the variation in ring width from the present back to about AD 400. And today, when we find these beams, we can send them to the Laboratory of Tree Ring Research in Tucson, and if there's 40 rings, it will have a unique pattern of alternating thick and thin rings, and we can tell you the year that that tree was alive. If we find evidence of bark on the surface, we know that's the year that that tree died. And if we get multiple samples from a room that all died in the same year, we assume those trees died from people going out and harvesting those trees to build this structure. So think about that. There's nowhere else in the world that archaeologists studying the ancient past can really date structures to the year that they were built. And yet we can do that here, and it's a part of what makes doing archaeology in the Southwest so incredible. The Pit House and Pueblo Learning Centers were a part of our vision at Crow Canyon because the lessons that we do with the school groups that come to our campus are based on experiential, hands-on education. And in addition to doing archaeological research, we also do educational research. And we've learned that the setting where students study really affects what they learn. And they learn about Pueblo history much better when they're at the Pit House Learning Center, where we teach the early Pueblo history, or at the Pueblo Learning Center, where we teach the later centuries of Pueblo history. One of the things we really want the kids to understand is that these ancestral folks are tied to modern living people. Pueblo people that still have their own languages and their own religions. So when we go out to these sites as archaeologists, we would find a mound of rubble. We would, because we're good at what we do, we could place test pits where we think the edge of a wall would be, and we would dig through this rubble and still hit an intact wall, the lower wall that's been preserved by the deterioration of the upper wall. And we'd go down through the rubble, and we'd eventually get down to what we can recognize as the floor. And if you look at this floor, it may look like concrete to you, but this is actually an earth and adobe floor. It's really beautiful. So one of the reasons we want to bring the kids here is when we take them to the sites, they think about this culture as living in ruins. And what this does is let them see that they didn't live in ruins, they lived in houses. One of my favorite professors when I was in grad school wrote an important article, and in that article he used the expression that archaeologists tend to underimagine the past. And it's because so much of what people had in the past is no longer preserved. So we wanted to create these classrooms to enliven the minds of the kids and let them see what these places where they're doing the scientific research looked like when people were actually living here.